United States, Steven Shapiro. All right. All right. So everybody has somebody and their workplace that annoys them. Somebody who drives them absolutely crazy. It could be a boss, it could be a coworker, it could be a customer. And you think to yourself, the only way this person could have gotten their job was a recruiting error. And if it weren't for them, I would be happy at work. They're the reason why I'm not happy. Well, let me tell you something. I led a 20,000-person innovation practice at Accenture. One of the things which I discovered is that everyone contributes to innovation. Everyone contributes to growth. Everyone contributes to the success of your organization. Everybody just does it in a different way. And what ends up happening in times of crisis, the people who don't fit in are quite often the first ones we get rid of. This is the biggest mistake you can make. We need to embrace creative tension. We need to embrace differences of opinion. And to do that, we are going to play a game called Personality Poker. This is the first large-scale event where we are using the Danish translation of the words. Since I don't speak Danish, I will be using the English version that I have in my pocket here. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the 5 cards that you should have on your seat. It should be underneath the booklet there. And I want you to look at the 5 cards, and I want you to sort the cards from most like you to least like you. A couple of important things. One is this is who you are, not who you want to be. We all wish we were someone else. Me, I wish I were Brad Pitt. You also, and this is the difficult part, and it will get clearer as we go through the process, I want you to try to sort these based on who you are when you're at your best, not who you've become. Because here's the thing, we've all become someone in order to be successful in our career, but it may not be who we are when we're at our best, when it's effortless, when life is flowing. So take your 5 cards, sort them from most like you to least like you. Now, at this point, most people do not have 5 cards that are absolutely perfect. So we need to go through a process for you to improve your hand. So what we're going to do is a little trading. And again, I'm going to use the English version here, but they all work interchangeably. So in my hand, I have visionary. I think that's the one that I have that's most like me, followed by risk-taking. The one that is least like me is directive. Directive means I like to give other people directions. I don't like to do that. I'd rather have people figure things out and do their own thing because I want everybody to be happy. Who is a person that thinks directive would improve your hand? Like if you were to trade with me a card that you have in your hand, it would actually make your hand better. So we have a bunch of followers here, no leaders. This is really good. So does everybody have 5 cards that are perfect? No. Okay. You want to trade? Yep. What would you like to trade?
Artistic.
Oh, so much better. Thank you very much. So that is the process. What I need everybody to do is I'm going to have everybody stand up, and I'm going to have you trade cards with other people in the room. Now, something very important, we're going to do this for 3 minutes and only 3 minutes. And at that point, I'm going to ask you to come listen to me. You can still stay wherever you're standing, but I want you to keep quiet. So just to get you to listen to me, I'm going to go shh. And if everybody else at the same time can make that noise, everybody will know it's time to just listen to me for 2 seconds, and then I'll describe the second half of the activity. So 3 minutes of trading, it has to be a mutually beneficial trade. Also, one other important point. Does anybody have a 2, 3, or 4 card in their hand with the numbers 2, 3, or 4? How many of you have a 2, 3, or 4? All right. Now, people love to get rid of those cards. Because the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s are the cards that represent your opportunities for improvement. This is who you become when you are your worst. And one of the things that I found is we sometimes have a difficult time determining who we are when we're at our best, but we know who we are when we're at our worst. So I want to encourage you, when you have 5 cards in your final hand, that one of them, or at least one of them, is a 2, 3, or 4. I want you to have at least one of those opportunities for improvement in your hand. 3 minutes, stand up and trade. Thank you. Okay, here's what I find at this point. Everybody always has at least 1 or 2 cards in their hand that they just can't get rid of. Yes. So, have you ever been to a store like at the end of the year when they have one of their big sales, and it's like people are pulling hair and punching and fighting to get like that best bargain? We're going to do that right now. I have several hundred cards I'm going to throw on the floor up here, and I'm going to go in the back. Limited number of each card. You only have 3 minutes to improve your hand. You must have 5 cards in your hand at all times, and you must have at least a 2, 3, or 4 in your hand. We'll do this for 3 minutes, limited number of cards. Try to get the best hand you possibly can. In the back there. Okay, we're going to end this in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sale is over. Okay, hopefully all of you have 5 cards that feel like it's a pretty good representation. As we go through the process, we'll give you a chance to improve your hand further. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the cards out here during the break. And you can improve your hand, or if there's somebody you work with, or somebody that's here that you know, you can take one of these cards and give it to them as a gift. And I'll talk about that a little more. All right, so at this point, we're going to do the interpretation. We're going to do this really quickly. Really quickly. And in personality poker, the suits have meaning, the colors have meaning, and the numbers have meaning. And we're going to go through all of those. The first thing we're going to start off with are the 4 suits. This was developed looking at the 4 steps of the innovation process and the 4 personality styles that were most successful in each of those 4 steps. And the steps and the suits relate to the 4 different personality styles. So what I need you to do is figure out what your predominant suit is. Does anybody have, in poker terms, what is called a flush? That is 5 of the same suit. Anyone? Okay, as rare in real poker as it is here. How many have 4 of the same suit? Okay, a handful of people. 3 of the same suit. 2 of the same suit. 1 of the same suit. Thank you. All right, if you had 3, 4, 5 of the same suit, that will be, for the purposes of this next piece, your predominant suit. If you only had 2 that was the same, then you're slightly schizophrenic, but we're going to improve it, so don't worry about it. I need you to choose the one that feels like it is right. Now, in a lot of cases, if you do have a big distribution in your hand, the 2, 3, or 4 card, the opportunity for improvement sometimes is the best indicator of what your style really is. So I want you to just take a few seconds to choose one of the 4 suits. As we go through the interpretation, you will see why people have multiple colors, multiple suits, multiple numbers in their hand. Okay, so take a couple of seconds. Choose what you think is your primary suit. How many of you feel that your primary suit is a spade? That is a spade. How many think is a primary suit is a spade? 1, 2, keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I counted 10 people, spades. What are the words that you have in your hand, if you could give them to me in English? The words you have in your hand, or things that coworkers say about you, or family members say about you. What are the words that people use to describe you? Just shout them out. Cynical. Realistic.
Structure fascist.
Which is what?
Structure fascist.
A structure fascist. Okay, good. Here's what I find is the people who tend to gravitate towards the spades are the people who like facts and they like principles. These are the people, if you love Excel spreadsheets, you are probably a spade. These are the people who love numbers, they love statistics, they love facts, they love data, they love proof. They make decisions by looking at lots of data. We're going to dig deeper into these things in a second, but let's now look at the clubs, which goes by a number of different names, but the club is the thing which looks like a clover with the 3 different loops on it. How many of you are a club? Okay, few people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. Great. Clubs, what are the words that people use to describe you, or the words in your hands? Competitive. Organized. Impatient. Commanding. Yet, what we find is that the people with the clubs, there's 2 primary types of clubs. There are people who like plans, and there are people who like actions. So there are some who are extremely methodical. If you are holding the 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 of clubs, it probably means that you fall more into this very methodical, I want structure, I want things to be organized in a particular way. If you have the 10, Jack, Queen, King, or Ace of clubs are your primary cards, it means you're much more about action and results in getting it done. So what I find is the people who are clubs are people who typically ask the question, how are we going to do this? And we better get it done. So it's about the process and the result. Whereas the spades are masterful at asking the question, why are we doing this? What is the business value? What is the reason that we will get, that we are focusing our time and energy on this? Hearts. How many hearts do we have in the room? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 35. Hopefully there are no accountants in the room. Hearts, what are the words that people use to describe you? Relationship-oriented. Generous, good. Good listener. Team builder, yes, all true. What I find is that hearts are the people who like people and Barbra Streisand songs. And they like relationships. And again, the people who tend to have the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of hearts are more of the deeper relationship-oriented people. They like to have smaller numbers of people, more about intimacy, being a good listener, whereas the people who have the 10, Jack, Queen, King, and Ace of hearts tend to be the social butterflies. For them, it's about lots of people, lots of experiences with lots of individuals. And clearly, if these are the people who make decisions on how are we going to get it done, and these are on why and the facts and the data, the hearts are the people who ask who. They ask the question, have we talked to the employees? How do other people feel? How do I feel? They tend to be more emotional. The diamonds. How many diamonds do we have in the room? Yikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, 42. 42. How many of you don't raise your hands in public? I'm just curious, because I think there's some people who didn't raise their hands here. Diamonds, what are the words that you use to describe yourselves? What is it? Taking chances. Yes, taking chances. What else?
Visionary.
Visionary. Artistic, open-minded. Spontaneous, yes. Again, there's 2 types of diamonds. People with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of diamonds are people who like ideas, creative ideas. These are the people we think of when we think of being creative. These are the diamonds, and in particular, the 5 through 9 of diamonds tend to be very creative, whereas the higher cards, the 10 through the ace of diamonds, are people who like experiences. So the diamonds are about newness. So if these are the people who ask, why are we doing it, how are we doing it, who are we doing it for, the diamonds always ask the question, what are we doing it? Is it fun? Is it cool? Is it different? The reality of the diamonds is they don't care where we're going as long as we're having a great time getting there. And it's no surprise that being at an event about happiness at work, we have nearly half the room, but larger than half the room, we probably have 75% of the room falling into the categories that would be much more oriented towards fun. So let's draw a line down the middle here and just take a quick peek at the colors, because the colors have meaning. They're broad, general categories of different personality styles. So if we were to look at the people who are the black cards, which is on the left-hand side of this chart, these are the individuals who tend to be what's called more left-brain oriented. They're more analytical in nature. These are the people who, I like to say, put the no in innovation. It's true. You know it. I like when you can laugh at yourself, or maybe in this case, laughing at others. These are the people who have two words that come out of their mouths all the time. I want you to fill in the blank because you know it very well. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So the spades and the diamonds, spades and the clubs, the black cards, they are masterful at figuring out the reasons why things won't work. They're very analytical, and they're great at getting things done. Again, very data, fact-oriented, very much about the plans and action. On the right-hand side, the red cards, the diamonds and the hearts, these are the people who I say put the fun in dysfunctional. I also say that if the leader of your organization is holding a red, the business may end up in the red. Because here's the problem with hearts and diamonds is they love experiences, they love people, but they don't get things done. And so if the leader of your organization is a heart or a diamond, you need to make sure that you have the right people in the right roles in the organization. So let's come back to the innovation process real quickly, where this all started, just to give you a sense of how this comes together, and then I'll talk about some of the different styles and how they work together. I think in the innovation process, there's one step that's overlooked more than any other step. And it's best described by a quote from Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein once said, "If I had an hour to save the world, I'd spend 59 minutes defining the problem, 1 minute finding solutions." From my experience, most organizations are running around spending 60 minutes trying to find solutions to problems that just don't matter. So the first step of the innovation process is to define the challenge. This is about relevance. What matters? The spades are masterful at this because they love data. They can give you data about competitors, customers, demographics, marketplace. They'll be the people who can tell you what matters most to your organization, where you should be spending your time to make the most money and get the best return. The second step in the innovation process, after you define what the challenge is to find solutions. This is the domain of the diamonds. Because diamonds don't like to follow rules. Anybody who has 6 cards in their hands probably is a diamond. They just don't like to follow the rules. But this is what makes them so brilliant, because they're able to take a concept and come up with crazy, radical, illegal, immoral, unethical ideas, and then eventually harness them into something that's practical. So they're able to challenge traditional thinking. This is what companies need to grow. But as we know, there's rarely a shortage of new ideas in companies. There's a shortage of good ideas that get implemented. So the next step in the innovation process is when you have your solutions, it's to boil them down and to plan the work and work the plan. This is where the clubs are masterful. Because clubs are the people who will take everything that's happening and say, okay, here are the resources we need, here are the dependencies, here are the time frames, here are the budgets. And they can lay it out in a very methodical, structured fashion. And then the clubs who are much more focused on actions, the 10s through aces, will be the people who can be the drivers of the change in the organization. But we know that all the best plans, all the most brilliant ideas are rarely the things which change the world. At the end of the day, it's about engaging the hearts and minds of the organization and your customers. So the last step is to engage everyone. Engage every customer, every vendor, every employee, have them be part of the process, feel as though it's their process. These are the 4 steps of the innovation process. This is generally how it works, and reality is much more iterative, and we go through this over and over in a much more rapid fashion. But it gives you a sense of how it works in the big picture. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about your hands and the fact that nobody has 5 cards in the same suit, because we're not robots, and we're not easily labeled into categories. Personally, the reason why I like the personality poker approach is because I don't give you a label. I don't say you're analytical, or I don't say that you're creative. I say you're a diamond. And when you leave here, I encourage you to take your name tag and stick your card in it and tell people, I'm a diamond. You don't have to give your label, because labels have a lot of meaning, but suits don't have meaning. So I'm a diamond, and in particular, I'm a very high diamond. I love new experiences. To me, travel is my greatest thing in the world. Coming here to Copenhagen, this is probably like my 9th or 10th time to Copenhagen. This is one of my favorite places in the world. When Alex asked me if I would be willing to speak here, I was like, just name the date, I will be there. It's about experiences. That's what it is for me. So even though I'm a diamond, though, my hand isn't all 5 diamonds. I'm a member of a skeptics society. Because I love science and facts and data, and you might not guess, but I actually was an engineer in college. So I have a little bit of a spade in me. I do like data. And you probably could guess that I like people. So you have a primary style, and then you have secondary styles, which are usually the 2 that are right next to you. But the one thing that I don't like, in fact, the one thing I despise more than anything in the world, are plans. I find plans limiting, I find plans restrictive, and the odds are if you're a person holding a club card, I'm probably not going to like you. And this is probably the most important part of everything I'm going to say this morning. The person you like the least is the person you need the most. I'll say that again. The person you like the least is the person you need the most, because they are the person who is your opposite style. Your diagonal is your opposite style. These are the people that you need to connect with, because they are the ones who are going to make sure you are successful. When I worked at Accenture, I worked on very large projects, hundreds and hundreds of people. As a diamond, I knew that if I didn't bring in a very strong project manager, we would go nowhere. We'd have fun, but we'd get nothing done. So the first person I would bring onto my project was a club. I would bring on somebody who's going to be methodical, somebody who's going to get everything done exactly the right way. And they had to be equally powerful to me. Now, I never liked these people. I found them really annoying. But they were so critical. In my business, I always hire people who are clubs to balance me out. When I worked at Accenture and I recruited people into my group, I would hire people in pairs. I would hire a diamond in a club or a spade in a heart at the same time, because that built creative tension into my organization. And then I give people the tools that they needed in order to be successful in communicating with each other. Because to me, that was one of the most important parts of creating a high-performance innovation team, having all the different styles. Now, let me just give you a couple of examples of where this has been extremely useful. I was doing some work with a marketing company. And marketing companies, they're really into creative types of things, so it's no surprise when we had every person go through personality poker, 80% of the people were diamonds. 15% of the people were hearts. 5% were clubs. They had no spades. They couldn't figure out why the company wasn't growing. It gets obvious when you start to see these things. You need all these different styles. I was working with a Fortune 10 company. This is one of the biggies in high tech. And the CEO of the company, the guy who founded the company and still runs the company, when we did personality poker, he was a spade. Very, very data-driven. And it was fascinating because during lunch, to demonstrate how spade-oriented this CEO was, one of the employees took all the measures that are used to measure the employees and printed them out and taped them, and they ran from one end of the room to the other end of the room. And they couldn't figure out why they couldn't come up with new ideas. Because they were overly measuring everything. Now, sometimes what ends up happening is you end up in a situation where I was doing this with a city in Texas in the United States. And one of the guys who ran the city, so he was the city manager, had a team of about 20 people. And when he did this by himself, when he picked his cards, he had 5 hearts. 5 cards that were hearts. When the team gave him cards as to how they saw him, each person gave him a club. And he thought this was really interesting. And the reason why that's the way it worked is because he became good at managing because he's a city manager. But it's not what he liked. He became stressed out when he had to manage, and he wasn't as effective as possible. And so he got somebody else to actually manage the teams, to do all the real management, and he started to do what he does best, which is his heart. And again, it's about figuring out, as it says here, playing to your strong suit, which is a term from cards, where whatever your strong suit is, that's what you want to play, but you need to make sure you have all the different styles around you. Sometimes we end up in a situation where we don't even realize that the cards we chose for ourselves are reflective of who we've become. So I was doing this not too long ago, and there's a guy in the audience who was one of the other speakers at an event. And all he spoke about was data analysis. That's what his company did. It was just about data, statistics, and reviewing other types of things out there. And clearly, this guy was a spade. No doubt in my mind. He came up to me after the event, and he had 5 red cards in his hand. I'm like, David, this doesn't make sense. So I said to him, I said, David, let me ask you something. What is the biggest challenge you face in your company right now? It's been sales for about the last year. So what's been on your mind for the last year, and what have you been doing? So it's all about customers, and it's all about selling, and it's all about relationship building. I said, how's that going? It's not going too well, and I'm feeling really stressed out. What he realized is he had morphed into what he thought he should be rather than bringing someone else on. And when he started to give these responsibilities to someone else who is more suited to do these types of things, he could get back to what he did best. And again, it's about having a complement of skills within your organization, whether it's a small team or a larger team. So I'm going to take a couple seconds just to ask if there are any questions, and I'll close with a story. Are there any questions? Well, actually, before I do that, let me just give you one quick picture here. Because this may bring it all together just a little nicer. Maybe a little difficult for some of you to read in the back, but this is if you take all of the different pieces, the colors of the cards, the left brain and the right brain. If you take the suits, the 4 different suits, and if you take the numbers, you end up with a model that looks like this. So the hourglass part, which are sort of the top 2 pieces, the spades and the diamonds, those are the 5 through 9 of spades and the 5 through 9 of diamonds. And what you find is a lot of people end up with cards that are like that because these are the thinkers. What they do is they like to think about ideas, or they like to think about data and facts, but they share a lot in common in that they're thinkers. Whereas down on the bottom, these 2 here, these are the 5 through 9 of clubs and the 5 through 9 of hearts. These are people who like to build. They like to build relationships, depth of relationships, and they also like to build plans and build businesses. So they're very good at being focused in very small, intimate groups. Whereas the ones who are on these sides, if you look at the 10 through ace of spades and the clubs, you end up with people who are principle-oriented or action-oriented, and these are the directors. These are the people who like to tell you what to do. So the spades, the principle-oriented ones, are the know-it-alls. I know everything, and I'm going to let you know I know everything, and we're going to do things my way. And the clubs are the people about actions. So these are directors of principles and directors of actions, whereas on this side, which is where I primarily fall, are the 10 through ace of diamonds and the 10 through ace of hearts, and these are the people who are the influencers. These are people who like to motivate other people. Because it's not about depth, it's about quantity. I like lots of new experiences and I like lots of new people in my life, but it's not necessarily about depth in any one of those things. So this sort of gives you a little more sense of how everything comes together, the 4 steps of the innovation process: analyze, create, manage, and engage. So with that, I have about 1 minute for any questions that you might have. Yes?
What if your two predominant styles are each other's opposites?
What happens when you're 2 predominant styles? So what are the 2 that you have?
The diamonds and the...
Clubs. Okay. So here's what I find happens in most of these situations when you have opposites, and you have 2 of each of them. Which is your 2 or 3 or 4 card? What's your negative card?
My negative card is impatient.
Impatient, okay. So it probably indicates more than not that you fall into the club category. Because again, we tend to morph. We want to. Most people want to be something else, and so we become good at other things. But our natural tendency, like what I'm clear about is my negative attributes are about being scattered and disorganized and totally unpredictable. I suspect you're probably a little more predictable in many cases. People are good at a lot of different things in a lot of different situations, and as human beings, we learn to adapt, grow, and evolve into different roles. But sometimes they're at conflict with one another. I was doing this the other day with somebody who actually was a club and a heart, and he said what was great is he loves competitive tennis. That's his favorite thing in the world. And then when he beats somebody at it, he feels really bad. Which is fine. I mean, we have lots of different styles. What I would encourage you to do is take a look at situations in your life and outside of work. Like when you buy a car, what's the process you go through to buy a car? A lot of times that will give you a sense of what your style is. Because I'm the kind of person, because I have a little bit of spade in me, I'll go through all the reports and study everything in detail, and then I'll go to the car dealer, I get in a car, wasn't on my list, I get in, I love it, I drive off with it. So the diamond is who I am. So we do all these things at different times. Basically, here's what I'd love you to do. First of all, I'd like you to take whatever your favorite card is, and you can keep all 5 cards, and I want you to take them and put them by your desk, by your computer. If there's somebody not in the room that you think you could have a good card to give them, find that card and give it to them. And take your name badge, replace it, stick it somewhere, put it on your forehead or whatever so that people know what your suit is. And while you're mingling with other people, find people who are of your opposite suit, because they're the people who could help you be most successful. And if there's somebody in the room that you know and you see a card for them, give them the card. I'll warn you right now that the 2 most frequently gifted cards, at least in the English version, are the bossy card and the anal retentive card. But regardless of whatever card you get, there's 2 words that I want you to say. Thank you. And I want to thank you for playing, having a great time, making this a better world to live in, because happiness at work, to me, is the thing that we need in order for us to create better employees and have a greater life and be more successful in everything we do. Thank you very much.